There's a new kind of leader climbing the corporate ladder. And this one isn't your typical MBA grad. It definitely doesn't play golf. Today, we're unpacking a blueprint for the future of leadership itself, the AI boss. So let's open up the box and see what's actually inside. Just imagine this showing up on the boardroom table. It's this perfectly wrapped gift, and it promises incredible efficiency and flawless data-driven strategy. But what's really in there? Is it the key to the future? Or is it something else entirely? Well, we are about to find out. And look, this is not just some thought experiment. The gift, it's already been unwrapped. AI managers are not science fiction anymore. They are a present-day reality, and they've been quietly joining leadership teams for years now. Yeah, this whole trend goes back a lot further than you might think. Way back in 2014, Deep Knowledge Ventures appointed an AI called Vital to its board. And since then, we've seen Alicia T in Finland, Mika, the humanoid CEO at Dictador, and just this year, Aiden Insight in the UAE. So this isn't some gimmick, right? It's a global paradigm shift, and it's moving AI from just a support tool to a core decision maker. So that brings us to the central question we're tackling today. As we integrate these incredibly powerful new minds into our companies, are we unlocking a whole new era of progress, or are we creating a liability that we just can't control? Honestly, the stakes could not be higher. Okay, so if we're actually going to build an AI boss, we have to start with this huge fundamental challenge, and that is the translation problem. How in the world do you teach a machine something that thinks in pure cold logic to understand the deeply nuanced, often ambiguous world of human corporate roles? This slide really gets to the heart of it. See, human rules are social constructs. We get nuance, we understand context. A policy like act in the company's best interest, that makes perfect sense to us. But to an AI, that phrase is basically meaningless. An AI's rules have to be algorithmic. They have to be literal. You can't just copy-paste a human employee handbook into its code and hope for the best. It just doesn't work that way. Now, this challenge leads us to this fascinating field called computational law. And the idea's been around for centuries, believe it or not. Thinkers like Gottfried Leibniz dreamed of a world where you could calculate law like a math problem. And today, we finally have the technology to actually try it, to turn these vague principles into precise, machine-readable instructions. And this image, wow, it just perfectly captures how delicate this task is. It's not just about being efficient, it's about being absolutely precise. If human laws are kind of like flexible tree branches, computational laws are like glass. One tiny crack in the code, one misinterpreted variable, and the entire corporate strategy could just shatter into a million pieces. So, how do we build this thing safely? Well, researchers have proposed a solution, a kind of instruction manual for putting together a trustworthy AI manager. Let's take a look at the 6 key parts of this blueprint. Okay, so this blueprint is this comprehensive 6-stage process, and it's designed to build the AI's understanding from the ground up. It starts by defining a clear language for the AI with an algorithmic dictionary. Then it creates a safe operational space. Only after that does it move on to training, decision-making, and finally, creating an interface for us humans to interact with it. See how each step builds logically on the last? So how does this actually make the system safer? Well, here's the really clever part. It's called the dedicated operational context. Instead of trying to force one rulebook to fit both humans and machines, you create 2. Humans keep their existing, nuanced policies, and the AI? It gets its own version, a perfectly literal, mathematically precise one. They work in parallel, each operating in a world it can perfectly understand. Pretty smart. All right, now for what is arguably the most critical step of all, training. You can't just give an AI a rule book and call it a day. It needs experience. And to teach it to be a good corporate citizen, this blueprint suggests a really powerful, if maybe a little unconventional method. Teach it to recognize the absolute worst of human corporate behavior. So the core idea is this. You take real-world examples of corporate crime, of misconduct, and you use them as a seed. And from that little seed, a large language model can generate massive amounts of synthetic data. So fake, but very realistic examples of wrongdoing. And you use all of that to train the AI on what not to do. And get this, here is the perfect real-world example of this in action. To build a model that could spot financial manipulation, researchers turned to the infamous Enron email database. They took the actual emails where Enron executives were discussing all their shady dealings and used that as the foundation for the training. Here's exactly how they did it. They used an open-source AI model to generate over 500 fake emails that sounded just like the manipulative ones from the real Enron scandal. Then, they fed all this synthetic data to their AI boss, essentially training it to recognize the patterns of corporate fraud. And the result? When they tested the trained AI on the real Enron emails, it successfully flagged the suspicious messages. The training actually worked. So, once the AI is trained on what to avoid, it needs a way to choose what it should do. And that's where game theory comes in. You can think of it like a corporate chess master. The AI analyzes all these different strategies, predicts how competitors and the market might react, and then selects the move with the highest probability of success, all based on its perfectly logical, computable goals. Okay, so we have the blueprint, we've got the training method, but what does all of this really mean for the future of the company? Does this gift, once you assemble it, actually keep on giving? This brings us to the final and maybe the most human piece of this whole puzzle.
The final piece is what they call the presentation layer. How do we, the human colleagues, the shareholders, the employees, how do we interact with our new AI boss? I mean, what is the ideal interface for this new kind of intelligence?
Well, on one hand, you've got these humanoid robots like CEO Mika, which are designed to feel familiar and approachable. But on the other hand, it seems like people might not actually want that. A survey of board members found that a majority would actually prefer a simple audio or text interface. I guess maybe when it comes to a boss, we value directness and efficiency over something that tries a little too hard to be human and, ends up being just a little bit creepy. And this brings us to the really profound conclusion from the research. Building an AI boss, it turns out, isn't just a technical problem of corporate governance. As the philosopher David Chalmers notes, it's actually a small-scale test for one of humanity's biggest questions. Every single step we take in designing these systems is a step toward defining what a future with superintelligence might actually look like. So the gift is unwrapped, and all of its components are laid out here on the table. It's not just a product, it's a blueprint for a whole new kind of partnership between human and artificial intelligence. The future of leadership is being designed right now, line by line of code. So the crucial question is no longer if we will build it, but how.